Thank you, first of all, for the invitation. I was invited to talk a little bit about the values and the perception that youth has on the values that come with this European integration process. And I think for that we have to understand that it's not only a procedural account, it's not only functional where we have to weigh benefits and costs and take people therein. It has what philosophers call a semiotic dimension to it. It has a meaning to it. People in the region already live European values. And then it is about recognition. This process is a recognition that these values are lived there. And taking, and to a certain degree denying, this process takes this semiotic dimension, this meaning dimension away. So let me take an analogy from the LGBTIQ community. It's not enough if you give people the claim that they can meet privately and there is no legal repercussions. It's when people can go out on the streets and can practice their sexual identities when recognition is approached and appreciated. And that's what people are urging for, this recognition too. And that's why it's so deeply upsetting, and that's where the youth perspective comes in. You don't want to alienate these people, and I think a couple of the speakers have already mentioned this. This could be a tragic turn. Because what we have to recognize is that the new alignment in politics is not the left versus the right. I always say that's boomer politics, left versus the right, if you divide politics in that dimension. The new political realignment, as it is called in political science now, it's between the people standing for the open society and people standing for the closed society. And the open society is something that we associate with the European Union, and that we associate with progressive ideas, with liberal and also social democratic ideas. And that's why we have this cooperation also on the international level, because both teams are on team open society and not on team closed society. And the team closed society, the populists, the heterocentrists, they are the ones who are the political enemies. And they have to be battled with different rules. And if we divide in left versus right, we will not get further on. Especially the liberals know that, because once we are in the center of things, we get lost. And so I think this has to be spelled out beforehand, because people, especially the youth, might not understand these old alliances of left versus right. There must be new alliances formed, and they have to be open versus closed society. Where is the vision? And I think the European Union as itself has a semiotic dimension. It has a mention that there is a vision for the open society, and that's how you gather the young people. And they will vote with their feet, and that's why I want to talk also about what is always called a brain drain or emigration or whatever, always with a negative connotation. For me, this has also some sort of more positive connotation. First of all, it tells us what people want, because they can vote with their feet, and it tells us what they want, a more open society. Therefore, they emigrate to such countries. What that does mean in concrete policy reforms, I'm a political economist, so I try to break that down into, I think, 3 fundamental policy areas. First, young people want a modern state. They don't want, of course, I don't have to tell you all of this, the clientelistic, corrupt states. They want a smart administration. They want decentralization where responsibility is on the local level. Because if you give young people ownership, they won't move away. If they have ownership, if they have stake in the game or skin in the game, they don't move away. And that's why the second policy proposal is linked to cities. Urbanization is still an ongoing project that we forgot about. The magic centers, or the greatest human invention, is the city. In the city, all things happen. I always moved around. I moved from big cities because in cities you accumulate knowledge. You have all the possibilities, many of them for free. So what is important? Cities have to be bolstered as centers of administration, but also in centers of infrastructure. We talked about digital infrastructure. We talked about innovation. This is the hubs that you want to cultivate in regions. So the city is a crucial aspect where we don't put enough emphasis on. And the last point I want to say is about brain drain or emigration in general. I don't want it to demonize. When people tell me, oh, brain drain is a bad phenomenon, I'm not understanding this. I myself have been educated in Germany, Russia, Taiwan, the United States, United Kingdom. It doesn't make me less German. Believe me, if people move away, they move away from a big hurdle, because you cannot take the rootedness of an individual away. People will always be rooted in their local identities. We cannot take that away. But especially a project like the European Union is about migration, it's about free choice, it's about developing oneself. So if we demonize such processes, we are alienating people from their very own values. We should nevertheless embrace it. And if we look at the statistics and studies on it, it's not a bad phenomenon. Emigration can not only bring the good skills later on back home, it can also create a middle class in certain countries, fostering innovation. If you look at patents, just to make it very concrete, patents, I think in the region of Western Balkans, Albania, 98% of patents in Albania are filed by people who have lived and studied abroad. So the skills and knowledge, the innovation mindset comes back. So there is no problem with immigration in general. People will come back, and you can make smart policies out of that if the smart state is set up. Think of remittances, people sending home money home to their families. If the state says we are matching these remittances by $1 for each remittances, you immediately generate our own dynamic. But these are smart policy solutions that break out of the old mindset that we have. Think of countries like Estonia. There is the smart state at working, or the modern state at working. So these are a couple of ideas that I just want to throw out, and I think this is what young people are hungry for the semiotic dimension. It means something to be part of the European family, and second, what it means in terms of reform, and I try to give some more concrete examples.
Thank you so much.